Russell, do you want to do the tour? That would be excellent. Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to do a garden tour, first part of August, and there's some really nice looking things. That's why we're starting right here, because I love this view right here, but there's also some really rough looking things as well that we're going to show you. We are coming off of quite a long hot spell, and I don't want to complain about it because I know that we are not alone. I know a lot of you have been dealing with intense heat this summer. We had over a week of 107, 8, 9, and 10 degree temperatures. We are high desert though, so we are in Eastern Oregon, zone 6. That means that we get really hot in the daytime. It's dry heat though, so it's tolerable in the shade. Like, you can get comfortable in the shade. We don't deal with a lot of humidity, and it also cools off quite a bit at night. So we might get 110 during the day, but then we'll be like 71 at night. And so things do get a little bit of a break. And I think because of that, I think our things survive, like make it through. But by this time of the year, things like hostas, I mean, they're about half the size that they started off being this spring, because we have to groom so much off of them because they just get tip burned and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, we are taking advantage of the weather this morning because we had a tiny bit, like a sprinkle this morning, and it's overcast, which is rare for us. And things do look a little bit better typically when it's overcast. So we thought, oh, we better run out here. So we just popped right outside our kitchen door, which is our main door that we use the most, and wanted to just show you everything in this space. I'm really loving the Velveteen Coleus. Is just so beautiful. Typically I do put a red type of Coleus or something deeper in color, but the thing I love about this one this year is the bright pop of pink in the middle of the leaf. I think it brings a little bit of light to this area, and it also makes it look a little cooler. I used Ridiculous. I've used I've used a few different red colored Coleus in this area that are more of like a solid color, and I love the dimension that this one has brought, because I feel like the Chartreuse and the Leaf 2 kind of like ties the Boxwoods together. Super happy with these this year. So I didn't trim them hard, you can tell. They're a bit fluffy because I got to it really late, but our window for boxwood trimming is pretty narrow, because I feel like I hit it wrong every single year. We can go from one extreme to the next really quickly. Like one day it'll be 70 and the next day it'll be 95. And if you've just shorn your boxwoods, that can be detrimental, and then they'll look burned for the rest of the season. So I'm real happy with this. They look so bright and fresh. And then the view across the incredible hydrangeas, which this is the best year for these so far, over to the willow tree. I just think that's so beautiful. I love walking out the door and seeing that every single day. It just makes me happy. We did have a tremendous amount of wind last night though. I have to say, every time we get wind like that, I'm nervous. I'm like looking out windows in the middle of the night, just making sure our trees are staying upright. We did lose like one big branch of the Coleus came out, which is not a big deal at all. I would much rather that than a big tree limb or something. Right here, been real happy with the Bloodgood Japanese maple. We have one of the new heucheras for next year planted below. Is this a ball gown or evening gown? Dressed up ball gown, dressed up evening gown. There's two of them. But I'm loving the bloom spikes. Look at this. I mean, they're kind of past their prime, you can tell, but I wanted to leave them until I got an opportunity to show you how thick they are. Have you ever seen a heuchera with a bloom spike that thick? I haven't. I'm really impressed with that. I think it's really beautiful. And then the pink Mink Clematis, perfect clematis for this space. Now these are the something trellis, giant panacea trellis from Gardener Supply. We put these up several years ago. Perfect thing for this blank space of wall, I think. And then this spot gets just a slice of sun in the morning, which at first I thought, oh, these clematis are not going to do well because they're not going to get quite enough sun, but it's just the right amount to keep them growing and blooming. Like this year they bloomed kind of all at the top. Last year they bloomed a little bit further down, and I do cut them back every like late winter, early spring to about 18 inches or so. But I think because they don't get more sun, they're not as thick, and you can still see the trellis, which I really like. I want to see that architecture. I don't know if that's the right word, but I want to see the design of the trellis because I think that's beautiful as well. Let's walk this direction. So the Incredibles, this whole area, oh my word, I'm dealing with some, oh, you guys, we got a plug issue going on. Oh my goodness, look at this. Oh, well, that's not good. Got to figure that out. I'm just going to pull this drip right out of there for now. It's running right now. Oh my goodness. That's why it's a good idea to go check your pots, even if they're on drip every day. You can see I clearly didn't do that and catch that. You could start a little pond garden in there right now. Either way, Lamium looking beautiful down there, and during the heat, you guys, it wilts down so much. Like, it has a drip line running through it. I think once everything dies back, I'm going to add a second line of drip there because it just can't handle the heat. These though, you guys, so good this year. This one's struggling a bit, and I think it actually might be too much water. I'm going to root around in there today, actually, figure out what's going on. But these were, we just did an update video on our highlights channel, actually. Maybe we can link it down below, and I kind of shared some of the details. These were broken at the garden center. They came in broken. A tree had rolled on top of them inside the delivery truck, so they were all smashed and weird looking. And I just thought, we'll plant them and see what happens. It took quite a long time. This is their third or fourth year, and they're really just starting to fill in, and I'm just enjoying them so much. They're the perfect size. They never flop over. They have really strong stems, and they're taking quite a bit of sun. There's a locust tree right above us. It gives them filtered light in the morning, and then they get a several hour block of full sun right in the middle of the day when it's really hot, and they're still doing pretty good. Now, right on the other side of this sidewalk, I don't know if you can see, you know, where the sidewalk came up. I had actually, the landscape crew was out here yesterday taking a look at this whole area. We're going to have the brick walkway done here probably in the next 1 to 2 months, including the area. Sorry, Erin, if you want to back up a little bit, I should have mentioned this before, but this area right in here, excuse me, is also going to be lifted, and we're going to leave these because I think they match the existing brick, or the new brick. The existing brick matches the new brick pretty good, and I think this pathway is really nice. But we'll continue that on, so we'll have that walkway covered. I'm very excited. At the same time, they're going to take all of these weird pavers that are tipped backwards, and we're going to put in a stacked stone wall. So I think that'll be a really fun change in this area, and it'll be nice to button it up. Honestly, like, it hasn't been horrible, but you guys know when you have an open pathway like this, it's just dirt and it leads to your main door that you use all day. You should see the state of our floor. Like, you can clean it, and then about an hour you can see pieces of mulch and footprints, like dusty footprints everywhere. Okay, going this direction, this area is staying the same. So for those of you who maybe haven't seen any of our garden tours or know the history of our house, this fireplace is original to the old side of our house, which was built in 1919. In fact, I think this may have been built before the house was, because where our greenhouse is now, where the Hartley is, there used to be what they called a sheep herder's dwelling. It was kind of like a little hut. And then after that was removed, then the gazebo went in, and then we, you know, donated the gazebo to our city and put in the Hartley. Can you hear the chickens? I'm trying to talk here. Oh my. I think they're laying eggs at the moment. Anyway, we love this space right here. It's so cozy, and we use it a lot in the fall, winter, and spring. If I switch spots with Erin here, look at the view this way. Isn't that so pretty? You see all the layers of boxwood, hydrangea. There's the flower bed over there, and you can see all the way to the west side where the surefire rose begonias are. We'll end up over there. And the urns. I just love this area so much, and I'm thankful for it, because you guys know we have so much of our garden torn up and in process, and you know, a lot of areas we're going to change. It's nice to have some spaces where you just feel at peace with, and like they're done. And like this area here is just almost maintenance free because it's so full of plants. The Japanese anemones are amazing. Do you see that one is now blooming? They're amazing fall interest, and I just let them go to town. I love things like that can just naturalize, and they're a weed suppressor. They also help with water. If you have things covered and shaded, it just helps so much. Okay, let's go this direction, out into this lawn. I did want to show you, this is a perfect example of what happens to our hostas during our summer heat, right here. That's looking really rough, and it's taking every ounce of restraint not to take those burned leaves off. So this one gets a good block, like a good portion of full sun in the morning, which right now it would be in the sun. And so it burns all the leaves. Now, if I were to take these off and expose all that wonderful fresh growth down below, it's still too hot out for the plant to take it, and those leaves will just go ahead and burn real fast. So we're leaving it alone until it cools off enough for those leaves to handle it. Then we'll come in and clean those up. But that's kind of the name of the game with hostas around here. And I would love to pack out our beds. In fact, let's look at these over here. I would love to put hostas and ferns everywhere in our garden because it's just such a lush, beautiful look, and they're easy plants to take care of. But here It's just typically so dry that they just do this. They just burn. So you'll probably notice over the next few years, we're gonna be shifting a little bit away from things like that and putting things in like Russian sage, sedum, things that look really good and that can handle the heat at the moment.
Russian sage.
Oh,
In the background.
I thought you were pointing at something like we've been having some weird animal activity around here, you guys. When you point now, I'm like, what? What is it? A flock of turkeys? Or there was 3 deer not that far from our house at the edge of a field the other night. My parents had a badger go through their garden the other night. Something tried to dig under the chicken coop the other night, and I'm thankful that we have all those big stones buried because that's what it came up against. We've had a lot of frogs in our garden this year, which is really exciting. I think that that's kind of a sign that you have a healthy garden space when you have things coming in. We've had a lot of bird activity this year, tons of pollinators, so those are all really positive things. But he was actually pointing at the Russian sage back there. So when I mentioned that, that is what Russian sage looks like this time of year, and that's what we want to kind of shift toward, where we have things that just thrive in our space. And I'm just kind of coming to the realization that I don't want to fight so much. Like, there are some things that are worth the fight for me, like boxwood hedges I love, but other things we'll be doing a little less of and waiting until we have ideal locations for them, like full shade for them, in order to keep them nice through the season. So speaking of Russian sage, let's walk over here and take a look. You'll notice I did not trim a lot of our boxwoods this spring. I just missed my window. I didn't have time to do it, which is okay. I don't mind that much. I mean, I would love for these to look tidy right now, but they're green, they're healthy. All of our boxwoods are rebounding from a horrible spider mite infestation last year. We've dealt with it a little bit this year as well. We did do a video on spider mite control last year, I think, or maybe the year before that, showing some of the things that we use, but we've been using Captain Jack's, and then Paul just discovered something. The actives in it are like rosemary oil, clove oil, and garlic oil, I think. I might be wrong about that, but he said he's having the best luck with that, and it's just extracts of natural plant material, which is awesome. So anyway, we had one of our juniper topiaries that flank the chicken coop got just spider mites horribly bad. But most of the time, you know, and I'm not inspecting every single plant that we have because we've got a lot going on, but it'll be like the infestation has taken hold, and all of a sudden I'll think that doesn't look right. That plant looks dusty, it's got that spider mite look. And so a lot of times it's not until the infestation's pretty, like, taken hold pretty strong, that's when we notice it. And that's where he tested that oil-based spray, and that topiary is making a complete rebound. And most of the time we have to bag them and throw them, like, carefully, so we don't spread the mites everywhere. Anyway, that's probably our #1 biggest issue here, is the dry heat and then spider mites. You can see right here, the grass is looking a little bit sad in some areas. These little jelly beans on either side have been hard every single year, and we haven't been as diligent with sprinklers in this space. Typically, you know, we do hand pulling of a sprinkler in this area. It does get hit a little bit with sprinklers over here, but not fully. It's an area we do eventually want to rework. I mean, even if we kept it exactly the same, we would need to rework the sprinklers in this space. And then the Russian sage. This variety is denim and lace, one of my absolute favorite varieties and one of my favorite perennials. Just because, like I said, I mean, full heat, or full sun, full heat, drought resistant, doesn't want to be fertilized ever. All I have to do with this plant is go in and cut it back once a year. It's just amazing. We typically do it in the fall, and then it just goes through winter, comes back fresh from the ground every year, and just looks amazing when everything else, a lot of other things, are just looking a little bit weary. Pollinators also love it, and it's beautiful color. I just think it's the most beautiful, beautiful plant. Around it, we have sprinter boxwoods, which I think even in the last tour, since the last tour, these have rebounded so much from the spider mites last year. I was kind of a little bit in despair about this one area in particular because they were hit hard. They were almost white, like so damaged, they were white. And they just look so good. You can tell I did not touch these with a hedge trimmer. They just needed time to recuperate. So this fall I might come in lightly and just kind of share like this, just a little tiny bit, just to tighten them up a bit before winter. And then next spring, hopefully we'll be able to come in and really do a bigger prune job on them. Something I'm so happy with, you guys, these containers are just, they are phenomenal. They look so good. They get morning sun. This one gets more, this grouping gets more than that grouping. You can tell I need to do a little maintenance, but the Toucan yellow Cannas as a centerpiece, and there's 1, 2, 3 pots in this grouping. You can't even tell. The plants have gotten so big. So in the tall container, we have the Canna. We've got this Plectranthus right here. So this is a variegated Swedish ivy, I think is what it's called, the common name. Right here, we've got Wicked Witch Coleus. Clearly loves this spot because it's just so good. And I was worried with the wind last night. I thought, oh boy, please don't take my Coleus in the pots because they're such a centerpiece plant. The Raven sweet potato vine, beautiful contrast for a lot of these plants. New Supertunia Mini Vista Yellow for next season. This is my favorite application of it. I tried it in several locations, here in pots out in the south garden, then also I planted a few in the ground, and I think it looks the best right here. This is probably one of my faves this year too, the Queen Tut. It's a new grass for the tut line for next year. There's something very striking and clean, way cleaner than the others. So there's Baby Prince and King Tut. They have much bigger plumes and they tend to burn in our dry heat unless you give them a ton of water. They are kind of bog plants. You have to give them a ton of water and in here a lot more shade. But this one is just like rocking. It loves its life. It's doing really well and I'm super happy with it. Another Supertunia Mini Vista Yellow. There's the luscious Citron Lantana popping through there. Love that bright color. Another really fun thing is this Lobelia. So, you know, Lobelia is a pretty common plant. This is Laguna Sky Blue. But here where it's so dry, I tend to not have very good luck with it. It wants to scorch wherever I put it. But it just took to this location. I love that. And then a new Supertunia, another new one called Persimmon for next season. And I love that bright punchy color right there. It's just a fun blend of plants that just have loved their life right here. I just love that. Anyway, the containers underneath here and in the portico, I've really been enjoying these palms. I've just much more of a tropical vibe up here with the cannas and the color too, like that tropical pink and the blue. And then the palms, I was a little nervous about the palms because they don't get very much sun right here. Typically want more sun, but they've done really well. In fact, I think because they are so protected under here and get more shade, I haven't had to groom a single leaf off of these because they just aren't getting the exposure. So they're not tip burning, they're not drying up, they're just looking really good. And I love the lushness of the plants around it. I do have some coral impatiens, which are just like the 6-pack impatiens, not performing amazing under here, but they're still a nice lush green. They don't have spider mites or anything like normally I deal with spider mites on impatiens. Hippo red, and then this is a type of creeping Charlie. We've got, or no, it's a type of creeping Jenny or Charlie, I don't remember. Anyway, it was a new one to me. It's got like a lot bolder leaves and it's nice and shiny. So in these boxes right here, the other one actually looks a little bit better, but we've got Golden Dreams Coleus, which I haven't pruned on at all. If we had this plant in a sunnier location, it'd probably be 3 times this size and a little bit more vibrant in color. Looks really pretty with peach tones out in the sun, but I love it right here. I think it's just such a beautiful lush look. Yellow begonias popping through. See the impatiens right here, no color on them. There's buds, so maybe we'll get to see another flush of color, but I just like the green. It just looks so like opposite of everything else in our area. It's so dry and brown right now, so just the green has just been lovely. Right through here, well, see, look at this box. This one looks pretty darn good. There's ferns in here too, which are perennial. These were part of our spring planting and I just left them in there. So we'll probably pop them out somewhere else. Our lawn's doing pretty good. You'll see, do you see that dry spot? Can you see that from here? The kids' pool was out there. I mean, they've got several like little things you can hook to the hose and they shoot water all over, and it's a perfect place for them to play because right at the moment we have a swing up here for Samantha. It's funny the difference in kids' personalities. We got Benjamin a swing when he was little. He hated it. She could spend all day in this swing. So we have chairs sitting here. We just sit in the chairs and push her. But anyway, it's a really nice area because it's always pretty shaded right in this spot. But for some reason, it just burned a spot in the grass. It wasn't even out for more than maybe 2 or 3 hours. And then everything's always picked up at night. So that's just the weirdest thing. This table and chair set is actually, going to my sister Monica and her husband just built a house. They got the keys today. So they closed and got the keys. They get to start moving their stuff, and this is actually going to their back patio. I told them they could have this. So we'll, stain it up. They got new cushions already for it so that they can have a place, right after you move, you're not really normally in a position to go buy brand new stuff for your, you know, outside and whatever. So, I mean, we weren't. When we moved into this house, we had like 2 pennies to rub together, barely. So anyway, we actually thought this would be a good spot possibly for a little swing set for now. I mean, it's not ideal. It is ideal in terms of shade and proximity to the house, and it's nice that it's central. You can see this spot from a lot of areas, so if I'm working out there, I can see the kids playing right here. That's really nice, and it won't be for very many years. So we've been looking at just smaller swing sets, something with a slide and a climbing wall and a couple swings. We'll probably put it right here for now, and then we'll develop the gardens around it. We have plenty of other spaces to focus on. We can just let this one be the kid area for now. Right in this area, we just put in the oak leaf hydrangeas, which are doing great. Loving that. Now this is an old school variety. This is like the just typical Russian sage. It's a lot bigger. This one tends to want to, the pollinators are just everywhere on it, but it wants to flop eventually. We don't have any water run to it, so I think that's helpful, and it does typically get a lot of sun. So this plant really does have a couple of things going for it, and usually we don't deal with a lot of flopping, but that's what's nice about the denim and lace, is it stays so much more compact and a little bit sturdier. This space right here, again, I didn't do very much in here other than like the recent oak leaf addition, because we were planning on possibly redoing. I just noticed, sorry, I get distracted so easily, like looking at something pretty and then I'm like, oh, there's a dead branch. Overall, the evergreens are doing really well that we had put in. So this blue spruce, we need to trim that one branch out, clearly. The Norway spruce, I'll show you in a minute, it's looking really great. The maple, not so much. We'll see if it survives. But we've got some really pretty things in here, even though it's not really been messed with. You know, some phlox we put in here, opalescence, starting to fade a little bit, and then this is it ultraviolet, probably, I think is the name. I recently cut back a bunch of poppies, so that's what this big open area is, but we're going to be developing, you know, this whole space to the driveway over there eventually, so that might change a little bit of what we got going on in here. And I'm always a little tentative about, I mean, we move so many things around. I don't want to go ahead and, you know, do a bunch of planting in an area I know for sure we're going to be moving stuff around in. Right around Persephone here, we planted some patience, light, is it blush pink, light pink, something like that. Kind of weird. So when we planted these, it was fairly early, then we had a cold snap come through. Was it like in the 20s, Erin? Like mid 20s, I think. We had one night. I went around and covered everything that we had planted that was tender, and then I drove around another 1 or 2 times, and I was racking my brain thinking, what have we planted that needs to be covered for tonight? Forgot about all of these. So they got nailed in that cold snap. The plants looked horrible for like several weeks afterward. Like they looked like they'd melted, and then they started coming back. So I mean, the fact that we have any color up here is pretty impressive, I think. This spot right here though, I am actually not sure what happened to this corner. I mean, it's wet. You can see the sprinklers. Did they go off this morning? Kind of looks like they did. There's some wet in the gravel over there. So I'm not exactly sure what happened to these here. The rest of them have some color. I think we're gonna do a white Supertunia up here next year. That's what Erin was talking about the other night, and I think that would look really nice. Okay, let's head back toward the Hartley. We recently did some swapping of dead boxwoods, so I showed you what those pots look like in that video. And then if you saw our recap video, the last one on our highlights channel, I did talk about the Hartley and kind of what's going on there. Let's run back there. You'll notice like some dead spots in the grass, and that's because, you know, when we had all this grass scraped up and this whole area kind of dug up, it took out some sprinklers that used to hit this grass, which it clearly don't anymore, but we're retooling this whole area, so we just didn't worry about it. It's kind of hard to see those, especially this time of year when it's usually so hot, but I know that we'll be handling those pretty quick. So our water that we had run back here, there was a big trench right here that leads right to that frost-free hydrant over there. And the frost-free is just, that means that the line is buried far enough down that it doesn't freeze in the wintertime and we still have water access. So when they were right here, they teed off of that, went into the Hartley for our faucet, which is in there. I just learned that they came up, like they didn't run the line as deep as they should have underneath the floor before they popped it up to go to the sink. It's it's at normal faucet depth. I don't know what that is. Like, what is that, a couple feet, Erin?
1 foot.
1 foot. it's not deep enough to withstand our normal winters, so it could possibly freeze, break the lines. We would have to turn off all of our frost freeze in this area because that's attached to it. So they have to redig up this whole area. He thinks they may not have to break up any floor, but they might have to break up a little bit, just enough to get right inside the door so that they can reattach the line at the proper depth, run it up, and then elbow up once it's in the heated part of the greenhouse. So there's that. He said that would be a pretty quick fix, so he could do that, and then we are going to have all of the beds that we have. I shared my garden design for this area. All the beds that'll be back here, we're going to line them all with brick and then put gravel down for the walkways. And he said it would be done fairly quick. I told him, like, I've got boxwoods out there. I really want to get this area buttoned up. And he said, oh, you'll have time. You'll have time for fall planting in this area. We'll get it done. So I was very encouraged. Now these containers here, may as well not have put any white geraniums in here because the Plectranthus are just nuts. You can see some blooms that were in here. So I put 3 white zonal geraniums, a queen tut, and then 3 Plectranthus, which, I mean, it's gorgeous even without the blooms. This one has a little bit, like a little bit of white popping through right there. So if you need a good filler or a good spiller and filler plant, the Plectranthus is just amazing. And then another example of queen tuts looking awesome. Look at that, just so clean and such a nice green color. And then inside here, let's just pop in for a second. Don't look at my dead flower arrangement. I've been pretty good about keeping fresh flowers in here, except for like the last week, because it's so hot I haven't been even wanting to cut flowers. So I showed you the countertop and the base that we had made for in here, and they did get all the water run. So there's a filtration system, which makes our water drinkable in here, and there's also a little water heater. So we've got hot water. I'm gonna be making a little curtain, like with some real pretty fabric to kind of hide this stuff. And then the rest of this area will be stacks of terracotta pots. They also teed over and put a faucet so that I could put like a little hose in here and wheel the hose out to water plants. And then we just went with, so I've got, now I would really love, I had actually one of you guys send me pictures of some gorgeous like vintage, was it like copper or bronze or brass or something like that. I don't know, it's like a gold color faucet, and I would love that in here, but I gotta find one that's a touch. Like our kitchen faucet's a touch, and every time I go to anybody's house, I'm so used to it that I do this. And I'm like, what's wrong with your faucet? It won't turn on. And then I realized, oh, it's not a touch one. So we just picked that one up because it's like the one in our kitchen, and I'm so used to that, and I like that. So anyway, if we can find, you guys know of like a really vintagey looking, gorgeous faucet that's also a touch faucet, send me the link. All right, Russell got in here. The cats are actually not allowed in this greenhouse. Out you go. Out you go. I don't want any cat presence in here. Nope. The area behind, we haven't done any changes, except for, you might notice the one arborvitae that was right here. We removed that because it burned so bad in our heat. I mean, the other one looks okay, but we had one here that had already been damaged. You know, when our elm tree that was right here about where the fountain is, behind the chicken coop, it lost one of its big trunks, fell on top of that arborvitae and kind of crunched it a bit, and I had it tied to the fence, which we had removed. So once we removed the fence, it no longer had that support, and then it burned this summer, so we decided to remove it. It looks so much better. In fact, it kind of lines up with the door of the Hartley here, to where, like, if we were to keep going and we put an entrance into that garden space, it opens up that view, so I could kind of visualize what that would look like. And I like it. Anyway, we're going to be, doing some changing back here, doing some changing with that garden. Nothing is really that different, except for you can see the Norway spruce back there. It just looks really good. That's another one of the big evergreens we had installed, and it's put on new growth candles. It's looking really great. Our maple tree right here. So this side of it looks decent, and we're actually surprised that more of the leaves haven't gotten all crunchy and wilted. Like, it's hanging in there, but kind of like by a thread. Sometimes with trees like this, it can take them a couple of years to rebound, especially one that was damaged as bad as this one was when it was moved. If we move to the front, you can see it better. I did recently, okay, so I gotta just show you this. We recently cleaned this out on video for you guys. I pulled out all of the borage in this area because of how badly it had taken over, and I told you guys it doesn't matter that I pulled all these plants out, they'll probably just pop back up. All of these are borage seedlings, like in less than a week. It's just crazy how much they grow. And I put 3 4-inch plants, 3 4-inch borage in this area, and they will eventually like want to take over your space. So just know that about that plant. Right in here, you can see some stakes and strings, and I talked about this in the video where I gave you a Hartley update and talked about how we're doing a step right here so that this area and this area feel a little different. We'll also have boxwoods, big pillars, you know, on either side with some urns, and then boxwoods that will attach to that boxwood hedge over there, creating a different space. And then the boxwoods will go here and then swoop around and then connect to, you know, a run of boxwoods over there, and then we'll create a new patio area in this space. But if you take a look at this tree from this side, you can see where all the damage is. Aaron actually had to bolt. Well, first off, you can see 2 cuts down here. Those were the 2 huge branches that were broken on its way over. And then the one right above it was cracked pretty severely, and I think it's dead. I think that branch is going to go, which means that is about what was damaged when it came over, and then that branch make up about half of the tree's canopy. And I'm a little bit like, I don't know if we want to keep a tree in here that is half a tree. I don't know. I mean, especially since it's brand new. We've got this area open. It would be easy for him. They do guarantee their trees for a year, thankfully, which surprises me. But really with this one, he said it was probably one of the hardest ones he's ever moved and one of the biggest. And I'm kind of like, well, I wish I would have known that. I probably would have picked something a little bit smaller that was easier for you to maneuver, but I'm new to all of this as well. But it would be really nice while this area is still just powder dirt for him to get his truck in, remove this one, and probably put something else in. And it might be something that we just wait on till next spring. You never know if that branch might pick up and do okay. It might just be stressed because it's so hot. It might leaf out in the spring. So I don't know exactly what we're going to do there. We recently showed you the chicken coop area because I think that video just went up today or yesterday, one of the days. It was recent. I went through and did some maintenance here. I've been really enjoying these containers right here. Kind of wishing I didn't put the black petunias in. It was just a whim. They look better in this container. I used to buy like some of these specialty random colored petunias, and now I remember kind of how they perform in comparison to once you've grown supertunias, you're kind of like, whew. I mean, these aren't supposed to spill. I know that, but the foliage is like so weak and yellow, and they stain everything they touch. Look at this. Look at that bloom. See where it was laying on the pot? They stain. Dang it. But it's really a pretty blend anyway. Velveteen, a Lime-Time Coleus. There's Raven, Sweet Potato Vine, Icicles, Helichrysum, Sun Patience, Compact White, another Plectranthus, and then our Black Petunia. Still really pretty. Underneath the Golden Rain Tree, it's starting to sprinkle a little bit, you guys. It's just such a gift this morning. This is another area where I actually don't think the water was running to this space for a little while. And so some of the hostas completely fried. They're coming back. I see new growth coming from them. Like I came in and completely cut them back. I mean, just the hosta leaves. Honestly, like I feel like Brunnera is almost a better choice than hostas for us because Brunnera just tends to handle all of the heat. They don't get the burn on the tips. They still have the nice big round bold texture that you're looking for when you're, usually planting a hosta. That might be something I transition to a little bit in these shadier areas, something that can handle a little bit, something that can handle it a little bit better. Okay, let's run through the vegetable garden really quickly. We need to come in. It's time to shear back the Sweet Romance lavender. So this was its first flush of blooms here. So we'll come in and do a midsummer shear. Well, it's kind of getting to be like past the part midsummer at this point. But we'll just shear off all the bloom stalks and then it'll push more blooms later in the season. It's actually starting to push a few, so we probably should do that pretty quickly. I've loved this mix right here. Acapulco Sun, is that right? I think that's right. I loved this Stratosphere White Gara. It's just such a really fun, whimsical looking centerpiece. And the Superbells have done it pretty well. Supertunia Bermuda Beach, there's Peachy Keen, which this just has happened in the heat. So typically Superbenas you do not have to deadhead, but I feel like this pot, because of our heat, there's always exceptions and times where you feel like you need to go in and do a little cleanup job just because of the extremes that the pots or the plants have had to go through. So that's something I'll probably be doing. We recently planted seeds in here that are just now kind of starting to pop through. Oh boy, look what the wind did. Sad. This is our volunteer sunflower. I staked it, so the whole thing didn't come down, thankfully, but it did lose some of its lower branches. Bummer. But there's not a tremendous amount going on in here. There's onions I need to harvest. There's seeds coming up. The coleus are starting to bloom again. There's another little flesh coming out. That'll be beautiful. The Limelight standard. This standard is just like, it just does so well in this space. I'm just absolutely loving it. I need to figure out how to like keep these branches up a little bit better, because then we wouldn't have like that gap, you know. But either way, such pretty blooms. It's just now, like in the last 2 weeks, starting to really come out, and these will get big and white and gorgeous. Ambridge Rose, this is a David Austin right here. This is its like third flush of blooms. I already need to come out and do some deadheading here. One of my favorites in terms of growth habit. I mean, they stay so compact and just so healthy looking and beautiful color. And then our new area right here is coming along. You know, most of this stuff, you guys, most of it is new this spring. Stuff we transplanted from behind the Hartley, like all the roses, many of the perennials we transplanted from back there. And so we're just kind of starting to fill up this space little by little. This is our biggest gap right here, but the Stokes asters are starting to bloom. Look how pretty. Big, beautiful late summer and fall color. We've done some perennial cutback. I showed you that already in a video. There's more Stokes asters. I don't know, it's just really coming together beautifully. Loving it. Next year, you guys, when these perennials like really start to thicken up and fill in to where we can't see drip tubing, and they're really just like kind of intermingling together, I cannot wait for that. And we've got Benjamin's scooter. These pots right here, it's so funny. Okay, so first off, I put an unplugged pink salvia in the center. I don't think I'm going to use any more of that plant, just to be completely honest. They just do not perform as well. And the bloom panicles, when they're done blooming, they don't have the same look. Like playing the blues, you don't feel like you need a deadhead. This one, they kind of are looking dry. And I don't know if it's our heat or what, but I feel like I need to come in here and clean it off. Anyway. On one side, I did a Supertunia Vista Jazzberry, which is like trailing down crazy, coming up and like engulfing the salvia. These are not Vistas, so you can see the difference. This is just a regular Supertunia Raspberry Blast? Rush? I don't know. And then this one's Supertunia Bordeaux, and you can see how much more like compact and tidy their growth habit is compared to the Vista. I mean, the Vista is just crazy. So I feel like I need to remember that and just do all Vistas or all regular Supertunias, so that one side of the pot doesn't look like it's exploding and the other side is like nice and tame. Really pretty color combination though. I'm really enjoying that. Right here, from about this, like if you took a picture the other night, like showing this and then like that view, it's just so pretty. Drops of Jupiter Oregano. We've got the Mary Rose David Austin. Stand By Me Lavender Clematis, got a little bit beat up in the wind last night, looks like. It just such a pretty look together, all of these things. We've got a button bush right here, Sugar Shack. Like, this plant looks so fresh. I can't believe I thought it was dead this spring. I've got a few more I want to get in the ground, but things that look like this, like that glossy deep green this time of year that have gone through our heat, our dry heat, gotta love those. And then we just recently took after this flower bed. In a video, we did some, cut back of some salvia. We cut back daisies. We cut back penstemon. I also trimmed up the crabapple here, just did kind of an overhaul. So this space right here is kind of in its interim phase when it's just recharging to bloom and grow again. The boscabels look really good. These have also grown beautifully, nice and thick. They've just been in color all season long. I do need to come out and do some deadheading again. But if we come around this side, oh, here's a good example of what the Prince Tuts do in our garden in the sun. See that? These are on drip, plus we supplementally water with a hose on hot days, and they still tend to burn. I mean, nice and thick. This side gets afternoon sun, and you can tell a definite difference. This is just the morning sun side. It's a lot fresher on that side than where it gets the afternoon sun. But the Surefire Rose Begonias have been just a beautiful plant in this area. Just beautiful. The wonderful part about these is that you can see we've got maple trees planted in each one of these little boxwood swoops. And I can't even believe, like, I'm just noticing how big this trunk is. Isn't that crazy? how long ago did we plant this? 4? And then were the other ones the same year? This one was planted first, right? I can't even remember. Anyway, you know, when you plant a brand new tree, all the space around it even is full sun, because it's just not big enough to shade things. And then as, you know, they grow, they start shading the area below them. And then this area, we've got big locust tree and a big juniper over there. So some of these wells stay pretty shaded during the day, like all day, but some of them get some full sun for pockets of the day. So to have an annual that can perform equally as well in full sun and full shade is really nice. So every single well looks exactly the same. And we haven't experienced that the last maybe 1 or 2 seasons, because we've dealt with such light variations that when you do supertunias that need full sun, they just, you know, will thrive in one area and look a little bit more meager in another area. Right up here, the fountain's doing awesome. We haven't planted anything in this space yet. We actually were waiting until after the heat spell to clean it. It's got some green going on in it. So we'll drain it and get it cleaned here pretty quick now that we're cooling off. It looks like we're gonna be in the mid to high 90s, and some of the days will be up over 100 a bit, but not 110. And there's a difference, but I've been really enjoying that. This bed up here has struggled quite a lot. I don't know if it's just the extreme heat. They look good right now, but a couple of days I thought, oh, did the drip not go off? These plants were just wilted down, like hard, wilted so bad, and the blooms like were just, you know, completely wilted down. So I'd come out here with a hose and hose them down, make sure that they were really saturated. The drip was going off. It was just so intense they couldn't handle it quite as well. And this spot does get sun for a good part of the day until the like mid to late afternoon is when they start to see a little bit of protection here. And these containers did really well. They're still looking pretty good. I think the heat has kind of taken a toll on them as well, but lots of good color here. And then at last roses, we had some hollyhocks, which we have cut back in this bed, but that's pretty much it in this area. Not a whole lot of changes. Okay, I want to show you a flower bed where we planted a bunch of annuals, and I probably should have started the tour at this flower bed because it's so spectacular. It starts right here with Superbena Imperial Blue. This is my favorite annual from this year. Like hands down favorite annual. They looked so leggy and so sparse when I planted them, and it didn't take them long to just like completely explode. The color is so saturated and so gorgeous. It looks beautiful with these Poet's Wife roses. And then we've got Toucan Coral Cannas. Again, I need to come in and do some pruning on those, some deadheading. And then we've got the Sweetheart Lime, Sweet Potato Vine. We did more color blocking in this area this year, which I really love. Supertunia Vista Snowdrift kind of through this space, and then a block of Superbena, block of Sweetheart Lime, a few grasses in there. I mean, look at these annuals. Do you remember what this looked like when we planted it? Sorry about they are building a house very nearby where we're at. So if you hear a lot of noise, that's what's going on. But I just can't even believe this space and how beautiful it is. Now back against this fence, we just cut back a bunch of hollyhocks that were completely covering this space right here. So those will start to flush back. They had spider mites, so we cut them back to take care of them. At this point, we've got some Rudbeckia right here, which is funny because I started all these from seed. These are a perennial Rudbeckia. Kind of a perfect plant out here for full sun. This is where we park all of our cars. So it's just a really hot space, but this one right here doesn't look the same. It's like one of the annual Rudbeckia seeds got mixed in with the perennial, but the mix of the Superbena with that Rudbeckia right there, oh, it's so nice. I mean, this whole space has just been such a beautiful thing, and it's been so fun to watch it fill in. Love it. So I recently showed you through the cut flower garden area and the grapes, so I'll probably skip that, but I thought we would walk through the grass pathways just real quick, just to hit some highlights. Also, we're going to be putting a bunch of trees in this grassy area. I know it just looks so vast at the moment, but we're going to have a bunch of shade trees put in. I'm also still needing to, in fact, Paul's been collecting cardboard so we can do that no dig method and put cardboard down on the grass and a bunch of compost, but we're going to widen out this flower bed quite a lot, like probably, I want it to kind of line up with where this grass pathway ends, so right about here. And it's just going to be massive right here. We'll put a big tree in here, and then all along the whole edge. We'll keep a pretty good section in the middle open for the kids to run and play and such. But all along here, we're going to be doing the brick border. We'll carry that on from where it ends, which will line the driveway, and then we'll have big trees. So I don't know if that's going to happen this fall or next year or the year after, who knows, but that is the plan. This entry area has been so fun. Everything's looking pretty good. We've got the Denman Lace Russian Sage. We have one hydrangea. I have no idea what's going on with that one. The other ones are doing great, starting to bloom. That just happens sometimes. So it looks like scorch. We're just going to be keeping our eye on it, see what happens. We may have to replace it. The Tuscan Sun Heliopsis, right about the time where we need to start deadheading a little bit. So if you come in, you can see the first flush of blooms, which have been glorious, starting to look a little faded. So if you come in, you can deadhead them back to all the new blooms that are forming down below. It's a little bit of a chore, but not bad. You can leave them though. You don't have to deadhead them. They'll just keep blooming, but you know, it'll look a little bit more tired if you don't. Echinacea is still looking amazing. Cat's Meow Nepeta. We put some ginger wine 9 bark and some yarrow in here. On this side we have white Echinacea, more Cat's Meow. These are actually yellow twig dogwoods. So right here, back in there, and right over here. Buddleia, you can see we haven't done any more of our pathway. We got just, you know, to here and then stopped because that's about the time it got really hot. And we just thought, no, this would be an excellent fall project. Maybe we've got pallets of stone over there. We'll just take off with this later. We're in no hurry, but this will cruise through this area. It'll circle around inside and then come back on the other side over there. And then we'll have just this whole area will be decked out. Hopefully in the end, we don't see anything, like we block our whole view that direction. That's the goal. Serendipity alliums are opening a little bit more than they were before. I see like a few of them are almost all the way open. What a pretty perennial that is though. I love it. And then the Supreme Cantaloupe Echinacea, you can see the older blooms here and then the fresher blooms there. And then we've got them front planted with the Coral Jade sedum. It's kind of a really perfect blend in this area. Okay, so let's head over to the other side. We'll take a look at that annual bed over there. We're gonna look at this bed from the outside here and then we'll pop into the grassy area. But this area hasn't filled in quite as quickly as the last one. But we've got the Toucan Yellow Cannas in here. We've got some Vertigo Pennisetum, which are the big grassy things. We've got some unplugged So Blue Salvia in here. So these stay more compact, you can tell, than the plain the blues. Salvia does. Look at the unplugged pink. I am just like not impressed with that plant this year. Bummer. I love the color. It just, I don't know. The fun thing about this space is that we had a volunteer watermelon come up. So that's what this vine is. Look at this right here. I didn't plant any melons this year. So it's kind of fun to have that one. I have no idea what variety it is, but we decided just to leave it, see what happens. A few Toucan Coral Cannas popped in. You know, a lot of them weren't blooming when I planted them. And you know, it is what it is. I didn't mean to put the pink ones in there. They were meant to all be yellow. This will look better too and a little bit more kept once I come in and do some canna deadheading. That will make them look a lot cleaner. But again, more Superbena Vista Snowdrift. There's some Truffula Pink Gomphrena in here, Sweetheart Lime, Sweet Potato Vine. It's just been fun because I didn't really have a plan for this space this year. And I just thought, well, you know, we had leftover plants from the college project. I kind of over-ordered for that project because last year I didn't order enough, so I kind of knee-jerked. Anyway, we ended up with several things we could pop in blank areas out here, so I was thankful for that. Let's grow into the grass area. So on first glance right here, you notice that the grass is like completely brown in this area, dead. The reason for that is that we have not seeded the grass here. This is the next area. I think, right, you're gonna do this section here, and then the section on the other side, we're gonna seed that with grass. The sprinklers that water this section also overlapped this section. So even though we seeded this and it kind of came up, it doesn't get enough water to keep it going. So it needs that overlap. So anyway, this area, when we seed this, we'll reseed this spot. And then that will start looking a lot better. These containers I do not like at all. In fact, I think I'm gonna pull them here pretty quick. Now these look way worse than the ones over here. Maybe we should stop at one of those. They got aphids horribly bad, first off. Second, the Coleus, I used El Brido, cannot handle our full sun. So it just bleaches out and it starts to dry up. It just looks so bad. This is a Superbena Vista Yellow, Mini Vista Yellow. But see, this side looks a lot better. This is the morning side, morning sun side. Right here, nice and fresh. ish. Persimmon, the Midnight, the Mini Vista Yellow. This is the Upside Black Coffee. This is looking spectacular right here. That's the bright spot in this pot. But the Suncredibles never have really been a super great centerpiece plant for us. And they definitely couldn't hold up to the vigor of the other plants early on. They looked great for a long time, and this happened with the heat. So I think we're gonna pop these out because yeah, I don't like it. Let's keep going this way. We'll look at the other ones over there. They look a lot better. But we've got just a lot of beautiful pockets of perennials in here. We are planning on touching up with compost over the top of all the drip tubing before winter this year so that we don't see that all winter long. But we've just been working on, you know, popping things in here and there. What is this, Erin? Did these cypress get like little seed pods? This is the first time I've ever grown bald cypress, so I don't know what to expect. Huh. Yeah, that's interesting. They've been really, really pretty. Like a brighter green, like real chartreuse in the spring. They look a little bleached out maybe from the sun right now as they're getting established, but they've been really nice. I'm loving the addition of the hardy geraniums in here. That's been really fun. There's that Heliopsis, the bit of honey with the variegated leaf. Everything, you guys, is just looking a little bit like I feel like I want to get my Falcos out in just a bag and come out here and just like strip dead leaves and dried up leaves and deadhead some things. Drops of Jupiter oregano looking much more vibrant out here in the full sun than it does on the west side. Both pretty. These are awesome. These are a totem pole panicum, and they will continue to grow for the rest of the season, like get up about this tall or so. Just a really tight, strong vertical accent, and I love the color, that blue. We need more of these, I think, in the garden. We've added some Agastache and some Echinacea in here. Coreopsis and the daylilies blooming. Woo! Must have watered out here. Yeah, the hibiscus is crazy. Look at this. Planted this outside last year, or outside, of course I planted it outside. I planted this out when it was like 103 last year, and it wilted down and looked horrible. Oh my goodness, I thought it was gonna die. And it has just like crazy growth this season. This is its second season in the ground, second full season. I think it was July last year when I planted it. And you cut these back to the ground every year, and you can imagine, I mean, look at all these buds. We're just about ready to have blooms like crazy over this whole thing. Limelight Prime Hydrangea Hedge has struggled a bit with chlorosis, like you can see right in here. So I don't know, when did you treat these last?
A week ago.
Yeah, so they'll pick up and probably start looking a little bit better here within the next 7 to 10 days or so. Just have to kind of stay on it with maples and hydrangeas in our space. But you know, things like this is a blue sky Serbian spruce. Look at how beautifully this is growing. Beautiful new growth tips, beautiful purple cones. I mean, I'm just so excited about that. Oh, this is an area I really need to deadhead. This is the orange smoothie daylilies. Oh my goodness, planted these out last year. They've been blooming like crazy, but a lot of the bloom stalks are done now, and I need to go in and clean up the undersides of, you know, the underleaves there, undergrowth, looking a little bit messy. I also need to clean up the phlox a little bit, but the Superbena is looking so good. Oh, I love it. And then we've got some cat's meow nepeta here, Echinacea, the tiger eyes sumac, some new Echinacea here, some Salvia, and just a whole bunch of perennials in here. This is one I've been really happy with. This is that skullcap ground cover that I know nothing about, never have grown before, and it apparently like super dry soil. I didn't run any drip to it, and I've never watered it since that first day. And it's getting just enough overspray from the grass sprinklers to keep it happy, but looking absolutely gorgeous. And then this whole area, it looks like a jumble because it kind of is. We've got a lot of plants back here yet to plant out. But we've got a lot of drip tubing showing as well. So this is an area we'll be coming through with compost. Now I was thinking the other day, I wonder what it would look like if we got some kind of like beautiful round gazebo and made a pathway back in here, because we're not going to store plants back here forever, and put some kind of a beautiful like seating area right here, and had a pathway come back in here and had it tucked in with a bunch of evergreens and beautiful things right here. Wouldn't that be beautiful? So I'm thinking, I forgot to tell you about that, Erin, but I think that would be a fun thing to add right here. And last, let's look at one of these pots that look a little bit better right here. This one looks a heck of a lot better than the other ones. Look at that. See, that's pretty. That looks good. You can see some sunflower. The Coleus looks a little bit better. And I think too, those first two just got nailed with aphid so bad. And then the drip, I had to change the drip out halfway through. So I feel like those really didn't get quite a fair shake. But this looks really pretty. Huge. I did have to cut out the nasturtium at one point because the nasturtium had grown up all the way up here and it was all the way down to the ground and it was just engulfing this whole side. So I came through and cut those out. I don't think that pot was even getting enough water to bring the nasturtium back, but this one's coming back. Anyway, it's kind of interesting. I wanted to show you the one thing we did on this new piece of property we bought this spring that joins up with, you know, the south garden and the lawn area. So we did have a fence put in, and that was our only plan for this space this year, is just to get the fence put in, and then we will figure it out as we go. So you can see the property line a lot better. It starts up flush with our current property line and then goes over, it kind of goes at a diagonal back, and then it takes off straight back into the trees back there. So you can kind of see this whole space. It's really, you know, exciting. We've talked about so many different things that we could do with this area. We still haven't decided yet, and we're not planning on developing any of this space. I don't know if Erin had talked maybe about seeding it this fall with some dryland grass mix.
We've got a lot of other things to work on.
He said we have a lot of other things to work on, so, and that is true, and that's kind of what we thought. We'll get the fence in, and that will be our only goal for this area. It is possible we may have one of the back areas kind of leveled out, and we might put up a high tunnel or two in this space, and that's kind of where we want to do plant storage, and then maybe some more winter growing and things like that. It would be nice to get those. We do have those sitting on a pallet, so it would be nice to have those constructed and up somewhere, but we may not get to that. I mean, there's just a lot of things going on, and right now it's just been about keeping things alive, you know, keeping things watered, and this weather this morning is a gift. I mean, it's way more humid than I'm used to. I'm probably like I feel like I'm dripping sweat right now, which I don't even feel like that when it's 105 degrees outside because it's usually so dry. But boy, it's just a break for everything when you get that overcast, you get a little bit of rain. And anyway, we just thought it would be a good opportunity to show you where we're at with our garden at this time of year. Things will start to look better though. After the heat, it usually takes them a few weeks to kind of recover from that, and then they start to look a little bit fresher. We start in with some fall planting with fresh stuff, and it gets really fun again. There's just that moment in the summer, because I'm not a heat person. I don't really love it above 90. So there's that moment in the summer where we're like, just trying to get through and get our plants through, and then it's back to the really fun, exciting. We can start planting again and all of that. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching this tour. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next video.